Third member ever to join Cab, Akashi Chris.
Hello. Happy to be here.
And to the left of Akashi, the new kid on the block, not to be confused with Maki Mock, Boston Beer.
Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. Good to see you.
Now, just below me is another Bostonite. You know her on Twitter as Boston Girl 58. Put them together for Sarah, Shock, and Horror. Yeah. To her left is our shaman healer, a lovely person, somebody who has already helped multiple members of Cab free of charge. Also, I've not gotten a bill in the mail. That is Sati. Yeah, look at. And to her left is another one of our moderators. You guys know her as Law Wifey 25, Jana. Hi, everybody.
When the applause does that weird stop all of a sudden, goes from loop to break, is so weird.
I know.
It looks like nobody's applauding. We applaud for you, Jana.
Yeah. StreamYard didn't give me the option of saying, hey, continue the applause. I mean, it's like it's going to stop you. But nonetheless, I do applaud all of you being here. I'm honored that all of you are here so that we can honor this gentleman who we're here to honor tonight in the at least the second or maybe third edition of Ask Nathan. I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Before we introduce our special guest, it looks like Lulu Bell is here. We got Jules here, the original gangster of moderators on this channel. Farm Demon, who seems her and Jana have the same sense of style on and appreciation of artwork. So hello, everybody. I'll bet that Captain Jerry Harris is here as well. Hi, Captain Harris. Here. How are you? Mm-hmm. And now we're going to talk about this gentleman here. The idea, we're going to have an anniversary here coming up later in the month. The date TBD, because I have 8 cabbies in order to coordinate a date with, which ain't easy. And then some special guests as well. So I know for sure, like Akashi and Beer are like, I'll be there. But and myself, but I got to coordinate with the rest on dates. So we will do that, and then we'll make a date for the 5th anniversary of Cab. But it was 5 years ago in August of 2021 that Nathan and I took a phone call on the show while interviewing that UAP podcast host, Andy McGrillen from Scotland. And that caller was Nathan. So we struck up a friendship. We started to communicate offline. We decided that we wanted to do a show together, but what were we going to name the show? And it was this gentleman who came up with the name Calling All Beings. And man, I don't think he could have made a better name that really can apply to so many different genres of shows. Nathan is I call him a brilliant man. Bia might say I overuse that word, and maybe I do, but it is apropos when I refer to Nathan. He's a friend, he's a brother, and like I said, I hope he speaks at my funeral someday, morbid as that may be.
You
like
have said that. I'm a witness. You have said that to me.
He has. I've said it to him. I think himself. It's like so. He has a master's in divinity, which gives him a perspective on the phenomenon. It's very much like his partner Darren Exo Academian. Very much like the celebrated Dr. Diana Pasulka, who's been on the show a couple of times. And so today we honor him with to bring him on and ask questions and get his thoughts. So party people, let's not have no delay. Put your hands together for Money Nathan. What is up, y'all? What is Can up? I get an amen? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Man, great to be with you guys. That is quite an intro that I won't be able to live up to. But I couldn't do this show without this man right next to me on screen. He's the energy, the life force behind Calling All Beings. He helps create this wonderful alchemy that we've created on the show with the guests and the co-hosts, the kind of hilarity that ensues and the thoughtfulness and the reflection that we bring to the table. Always a good time, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, brother. So have you met everybody here? I don't think you've met Jana. I don't think you've met Sati. You definitely met Sarah. You guys had a great conversation. Yeah. So say hello to Nathan. Introduce yourselves, ladies, please.
Go ahead, Jana.
Oh, hi, Nathan. I'm Jana. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you. I'm a new moderator.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Thank you.
And hey, Nathan, I'm Sati. You can find me on X, and I really look forward to this show. I'm a shaman, and I'm an energy worker and healer. So you are kind of right up my alley. Excellent. With the things that you talk about. This is going to be great.
Yeah, good to meet you, Sati.
We've got her connected with Darren, and they resolved that they should do a show together on Cab. So I said, oh, geez, we can make that happen. So
that'll be fun.
Money Nathan. So I did invite a special guest on. I hope she shows up. And when I tell you the nature of my question, you'll kind of know who I'm referring to. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was about these. I want to focus in on two of the creatures that are said to have interacted with humans, but are a form of non-human intelligence. Those would be the reptilians and the insectoids / mantid beings. And what I'd like you to consider relative to, and let's just zero in on the insectoids, the mantoid beings for a second. And what I'd like you to zero in on is assuming that we do have friends and have had friends that have interacted with these creatures, and they are one of the reported phenomena that have visited and interacted with humans. I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of, well, let's start here. We're talking about a sentient being, and this is the reason why I didn't put the grays in this conversation, is because we have some grays that are the bigger ones, and they have some sort of a biological sentience attached to them. And then we have some of the smaller grays that people assume are completely AI, and the humans are not able to get a read that there's any sort of, what's the word? That they're not sentient beings, that they're really robotic AI type creatures that are anthropomorphic in their presentation. Mm-hmm. So if these insectoid type mantid creatures are a sentient being, what do you assume that they have? Do you assume that they are an interdimensional origin, like they're here on Earth, but we don't see them in this dimension? Do you assume that they're from another planet? And if so, what do societal norms might inform or those creatures be exposed to that's developed that sentience?
Yeah. Wow. What a great question. I think it'll surprise a lot of people who are coming into the topic that these two morphologies, these two humanoid types are in the lore, the UFO lore. Most people are familiar with the grays, as you talked about, but not as many people are familiar with the reptilians and the mantids. And I think those are the ones, just like many people have very visceral reactions to insects and to reptiles in day-to-day life, like those are the ones that kind of bring about some of the greatest, maybe the ick factor or the cringe or the fear factor. There's a lot of fear that people talk about when they have these kinds of encounters, because, I mean, you could only imagine, we're not talking about seeing a little praying mantis out in the garden. We're talking about, they're often described as being incredibly tall, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet tall. Sometimes they're dressed in robes. Apparently they appear to be very wise. So quite a disconnect between what you experience in your day-to-day versus having an encounter like this with this very large insectoid. And the reptilians, I think, naturally bring about a lot of fear with people. And of course, the reptilians generally get associated in the experiencer community, oftentimes with shape shifting. So there's sort of this deceptive quality to it that they can be something else. They can shift into other forms. So it's very interesting, and I find those two creatures to be like difficult to deal with, quite frankly. It raises a lot of questions. So there are various hypotheses as to about what this might be. So one of them that I think is really interesting to explore is something called the Silurian hypothesis, that basically gets into this notion that the Earth is incredibly old, and that civilizations could have risen and fallen, and we would have no evidence of them having existed before us. And human civilization and all of its grandeur and what we've achieved is basically new to the scene, and there's a lot that is in our historical past that we're just completely oblivious to. I find that hypothesis very intriguing. Other hypothesis, of course, is that they're not from the Earth, they're from other planets, and then that raises questions about this humanoid shape and why humanoid? Why would there be mantis beings on other planets? And sort of we get into territory there that's interesting, that I think could go into places like we might be an engineered species. Maybe we're new to the scene on the planet, and maybe this species sort of seeded us and has been guiding and overseeing us. And similar with the reptilians, the same kinds of things that slot into place. I mean, these to me, I really wrestle with them because they have this archetypal quality. They have this very strong association to things that pardon the language I'll use, but kind of light up our lizard brains, sort of cause our reactions to these kinds of things. And when you're dealing with experiences that are discombobulating and scary and all this kind of, you could see how these kinds of beings, these creatures would be mapped onto those encounters, whether they are in fact giant mantis or not. We might associate those encounters with that kind of a being. So I don't have any, easy answers for you. And I think but I think where it does go into interesting territory as well is that there is, and you see this with the Greys too, that there seems to be no barrier to communication with these entities, right? So there's no, when people have these encounters, it's not like there's some sort of Google Translate happening in the room. There's no third party they're not speaking insectoid or whatever. And it's just that there's this that people often talk about, a telepathic communication with the beings in the language that they understand. And so that raises all kinds of questions as well. The last thing I'll say is that the universe could very well be this sort of nested projection kind of situation that's happening. And so there are, sort of subroutines. We kind of use programming language, or there are these archetypal programs that run in this projection that map onto experiences that we have, and that this is what is sort of called forth when these encounters occur. And certain, depending on the nature of the encounter and what the encounter is designed or meant to evoke, these beings may represent themselves in that way. It just has a more dynamic effect on the encounter. So I don't have a lot of great answers. I'm not a person that really wants to weigh in 100% on, they're totally real, or they're completely imaginary. I haven't had an experience myself, so I try to suspend my judgment on that. And that's basically where I land right now.
Well, just to let you know, Leah is working on a translation device for these other intelligences so that we can communicate.
One of those Black Ops programs I'm part of.
That's right. Of the many. Yeah. I don't know how you have time to do all those things. Yeah.
Nathan, I'm not going to expand. I want to keep it moving. I can circle back with some follow-ups, but I want to get Leah in there. So let's go with prime time. And feel free to comment on the previous question before you ask yours, or wherever you want to go.
Yeah, one of the things I'm always struck by with mantids too is how commonly people have visions of mantids when they have breakthrough DMT experiences, right? Like these are a pretty common and universally reported visual that that people report. Nathan, I'm super curious in terms of like your intellectual lineage, of course. Like what thinkers or writers have really formed your current approach to this subject and have sort of provided guidance or ways of thinking about the UFO subject?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, my intellectual upbringing was heavily influenced by the humanities. Quite frankly, I was huge into poetry when I was in high school and college, and just really enjoyed reading poetry. And my love for poets came from my love of language. And so I was a preacher's kid, and I was in church a couple times a week, and I was listening to sermons week in, week out, and I really enjoyed both listening to the text, but also what the sermon would evoke in that kind of conversation, that public discourse. And so when I got to reading poetry as a young adult, I saw this mapping to this human experience, and that really spoke to me heavily. When I went to seminary, one of the biggest thinkers, there's sort of two thinkers that influenced me pretty heavily there. One was the theologian Paul Tillich, who talks about the ground of being, and I'd never really understood or thought about my sort of faith tradition being rooted in this universal source of all there is, of this being. And like many people that grow up a Christian, it's very kind of anthropomorphized God, a he, typically a male, patriarchal kind of deity. Although I didn't have a conservative Christianity that had a heavy-handed patriarchal God. But Tillich, very much exposed me and opened my mind to this way of thinking about the universe and the ground of being the source of all that there is. The other theology that was really impactful for me was process theology, which came from Alfred North Whitehead. So you're familiar with him, the mathematician. And if you've ever tried to read or have read Whitehead, it's not for the faint of heart. It's it's pretty hefty reading, and a lot of people who study Whitehead and devote their entire lives to it still find it quite difficult and challenging to read. I absolutely felt that as well. He's definitely a difficult reader, but he had many students that I found easier to understand. So the work of Charles Hartshorne and Peter Ray Griffin and John Cobb. These are folks that influenced my thinking about God and the way that God is participatory in the world. I'd never considered that the things that we experience in the way that we experience the world could have an impact on God and the Godhead. Growing up, it's sort of God is this immovable, immutable, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent being that is very kind of classical mono being and is unmoved in a way by what we do. But in process theology, it's very much a co-evolution. It's a co-relating process. And so that absolutely has a big influence on the way that I approach this phenomena. And then recently, I would certainly say that the work of that Darren's doing has heavily influenced me. Jacques Vallée's perspective, John Keel certainly, Dinah Pasulka as well, just because I think she's done a good job of bridging the modern ways in which religion sort of intersects and seeps into just our general cultural experience. But Darren certainly more recently very, very heavily his perspective and integral theory and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a long answer to your question, but that's kind of the
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you, Nathan.
Sure.
Yeah, now people know why we invited him on to do just an ask him questions. Because now when I come around, I'm going to ask you about Darren and his effect on you. But before I do that, let's go to our colleague, the amazing artist who came up with a groundhog version of Nathan today. That like if I would have had like my protein shake, I probably would have spit it out because it was so funny.
That was amazing, Akashi. Oh my God.
I was worried that I finally pushed Nathan too far. I was going to start texting going, I would like to be on the show. I understand if Ponsatani Phil is where I went like too rogue.
I thought
Thank you for being so kind.
Complaint against you. I really did.
He's so sweet. He's got a great sense of humor. So
anytime. I love it.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for doing this. I love that we can ask you all kinds of questions. So this one's one that I was thinking about the other day, and of all people that I want to ask, I was like, oh, Nathan would be the perfect person for this one. So what do you think? So now that, they're releasing all these things, right? They're releasing all this proof, declassifying things. But then when you talk to people in Congress, it's funny because they're so quick to frame the UFO phenomenon as angels or demons, And it's like, you see people in Congress talking about this openly, but at the same time, in the hearings, you don't hear Grush talking about, oh, this is a demon that showed up in this one, and this is an angel. In skiffs, I'm sure they don't talk about it as angels and demons, and they even don't want to talk about it because it doesn't exist. But the minute they get on camera, oh, they're demons. So what do you have to say about kind of the divergence between, they're coming from the same place, the same place where you hear the hearings. So what do you think about that clash in the messaging?
Yeah, I think that's really key to hone in on. I think it's, so I'll start here. The Congress is a house of the people, right? So the way that Congress is reacting to information that they're seeing and the way that they're explaining it to people is, it's not like they're some sort of amazing scientists or researchers. Certainly there are some of those in Congress, but they're bringing just the average person's experience to that information. And I think for them to come out and say, I think this is interdimensional. I think this is spiritual. You hear Tucker Carlson, for example, talk about this. He talks, he thinks that it's demonic and there's this spiritual warfare happening, all this kind of stuff. This is, I think it's the easy off the shelf grab for many people. And when I say that and I use that language, I don't mean it in a derogatory sense. I just think that is what is most familiar. So if you've grown up and if your only exposure to supernatural, forces is coming to you from the sources of the Bible or comic books, right? Let's give it those two sources. For whatever reason, we've decided the Bible has more importance than a comic book, right? And that we've decided that, as a society, as a culture, that the Bible has more truth to it than the comics. But they both contain superheroes and supernatural things that occur. And so when you have a framework that looks at the world where your truth is rooted in that understanding, in that kind of dichotomy between good and evil and angels and demons, it's going to be a natural place to go. And I think instead of denigrating that, we have to understand that's going to be a normal reaction for a lot of people. That's going to be where people go. And I think that there are, like many things, there is some truth to that framing, just as there is not. So there is some truth to that. There are some of these beings probably don't have the best intentions for humanity, and some of these beings don't have, our futures, in their hearts. They're not really looking out for us. Some of them may very well want to see us thrive and want to see us, be the best selves that we possibly can be, the best species that we can. And so I think we would, we can map those things to the biblical angels and demons. But even if we look at the Bible itself, and I think this is where it also gets a little bit interesting, is that when you look at angelic encounters in the Bible and you look at demonic encounters in the Bible, they're actually they're not really like what people think about when we throw these terms around now. So when we talk about angels and demons now, I think most people immediately think of, and they got wings, they're angels, and they're bright and white, and they got horns and a tail, and that they're demons, right? This is not something that you're going to find, rooted in biblical, texts or theology. It's something that came much later, and that is kind of mapped onto those types of experiences. What is certainly true about these beings in the Bible is that they usually were messengers. They were giving some sort of message to a human. And the human had a difficult time processing the message, but felt compelled to go and tell people about the encounters, right? And often became either ridiculed for sharing those experiences, or sometimes lionized, and they became sort of popularized and followed, and sects and stuff, beliefs spun out of those experiences, right? So does that sound familiar to anyone? I think it should, because that's what happens in many experiencer encounters. You have these experiences that are completely awe-inspiring. It's difficult to process, but you feel this strong compulsion to do something with it. Like, it's literally life-changing. And so you're going out into the world and you're trying to explain to people what it is that you've encountered, and there's an urgency to it, right? And we hear this language used a lot. I mean, Lou Elizondo's book was called Imminent, right? There's this urgency to wanting to get this information out. You can think about Chris Bledsoe as well, where he was talking about, you know, this sense that it was going to happen very, very soon. He was like tilling up his backyard and planting a garden because he thought he was going to have to feed his family because the end was coming. You know, this was many, many, many years ago. So this is what these experiences, how they impact the human psyche. So it's a nuanced answer, I hope, to your question. I think that that's something that we have to engage with. We have to try to wrestle with that framing, and also think about it in terms of what is true about this, but what is not quite true as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. The thing that kind of catches me when I see them doing that is that it takes us from an unknown situation to a very binary. They're either good or they're bad. They could be totally irrelevant to us. I mean, but we don't know, because angels and demons, people are either good or bad. But thank you so much, Nathan.
Sure,
You
no,
blow my mind as usual, and you calm me down as always. So, you know, as we've made a point before.
That's right.
Where's that groundhog,
ASMR,
JPEG?
Nathan. ASMR, Nathan.
Yes,
Anyway, thank you so much, Nathan.
We need to get, Akashi, we need to get that groundhog JPEG up on the screen before the end of the show.
So good.
All right, let's go.
You have it. Oh, I'll text it to you. We'll do
Thank
that.
you. All right, Sarah and Shock and Horror, let's go with you.
Oh, okay. So hello, Nathan. Thank you for chatting with me for a little bit a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of really good stuff that came out of that discussion. I recently rewatched the original Ask Nathan that was done a few years back. And there was a question that came up that I'm curious to know if your answer has changed at all. So you were asked, I think maybe by Deb, or somebody in the chat, if you would ever be interested in initiating contact, and if so, kind of what that would look like. And I couldn't remember if I had heard you speak about that again recently, so I apologize if you have, but I'm curious if your answer is still yes, or if it's changed, or if you have tried, and if you can just kind of let us know how your feelings have evolved since a few years back.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great question. So one of the weird things about my personality, I think this is just getting older and understanding myself a little bit better than when I was younger. It's hard for me to fully invest myself in what I would consider to be a wholly voluntary experience where I'm putting all of myself into an effort of engagement in that way. And I'm here. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up in the church, you know, certainly prayer and reaching out to God and, you know, having these, hoping for these spiritual experiences was pretty common. I never really felt that need. I never felt that I could do it the way that I observed people doing it. I never felt that I you know, wanted to try even doing that. It just didn't seem as if it was something that was, it came inside of me. So I think I'm approaching it the same way with encounters with the phenomenon. It's not to say I haven't tried some of these contact experiences. I certainly have. I mean, who hasn't gone out into the night, looked up at the bright sky and thought, you know, hey, if you're out there, like, you know, show me, you know, let's see what you got. I've certainly tried that. And I will say as well that the closest that I have come to something like this is through a psychedelic experience. In a psychedelic experience, I didn't, you know, you really don't know necessarily what you're going to get. But as I began having the experience, I was in my journey through that. I was interacting with something. I felt that I was interacting with something. And so I had questions I would pose to the being or beings that I encountered. It was a dialogue. I would pose questions in my mind and it would respond. It would be this kind of back and forth. It would, you know, not necessarily with words per se, but the behavior would change. The experience would change through my initiated contact with that being or those beings in the psychedelic journey. So that's as close as that I've ever gotten. I've never had anything that's come back from that. Never had what I would call a hitchhiker or something like that. You know, it's not to say I would say never. I think, you know, you hear like Diana Pasolka say she has no interest in that whatsoever. You know, I would certainly be willing to give it a try, but I would want to do it with folks that I felt like have had other experiences and felt like they've got a good practice, that they're really well grounded in the experience, so that I'd be more confident that I'm in good hands in that company.
Right. So you and Kevin are going to go into an open field and ask to be beamed up, is what I'm hearing.
Sure, let's do it.
Oh man, that would be so awesome to see Kevin, and if he wears some sort of a some ironclad thing that covers his backside, because he's very worried about various methods of probing. But I don't know why I'm just telling Akashi, is this not what he says all the time? Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
It's a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, where did he go?
I don't know.
Is he coming back?
I'll text him
He
and
was
see
here.
if we can get him back in. I don't know why I turned this into an S. So let's go to Boston Bia, and then we'll go to Jana and Sati. Go ahead, Boston Bia.
All right. My question for you, Nathan, and thank you for being here with us tonight and for letting us pick your brain. Anyways, how do you feel the online communities have influenced information about disclosure?
Whoa. All right. Where do I start with this one? That's a great question. I get very frustrated with the online communities. And I see a lot of heads nodding because I think everyone on this panel has had experiences with online communities that are quite frustrating. I have some experience in cultivating what I would say are healthy online communities. So I'm a lifelong video game player ever since I was a little kid. And in my early 20s, I had a chance to meet some folks that were, interested in the same games that I was in. And when it was the early days of online gaming, and when you're in those online games, you'd be encountering just people shouting into your ear, total strangers, saying horrible things, and it was ruining the experience. Quite frankly, it was ruining the fun that I had, growing up and enjoying that. And so I encountered like-minded folks that were also tired of that experience, and so we banded together and created a group of like-minded folks that had some core principles, and the core principles were sort of like sportsmanship and the spirit of the good game, and being kind to people and still having good time in the process. So that community started many years ago. It's 20 years old now. There's like, everybody's got kids, and some of them even have grandkids. And so
wait, Nathan, important question. What game?
Yes. Oh, great question. Halo 2 was what got me into that.
Excellent.
Very good choice.
Halo 2, first-person shooter, and I do play other types of games, but I've always had a love for the first-person shooter. So and some of the, it's the cool things have spun out of that. What I found is that a lot of people have opinions about online communities, and oftentimes they're really derisive of these communities. Like, oh, how do you don't know these people in real life? You've never spent time with them, and true. For many of them, I've never met them in person, but actually many of them I have met in person. I've spent time with them. I've shared meals with them. I've met their children. Like, we've had experiences that have really enriched our lives, and I think we've brought value to our lives. But we've had to work at that. We've had skin in the game in that experience, and I think what I find lacking in most online communities, like X, for example, is very few people have skin in the game. It's just it's very easy to lob stuff out there and deal with zero consequences of what you're putting into the world. And just human beings, we feel good about trying to score points against somebody else. We like taking the jabs and cutting people down. And when you get those likes and people like the things that you say that are negative about somebody else, I'm getting attention. That feels nice. So let me do more of that. So these are the feedback loops that I think are pretty harmful to us as a species. And so, this is a diversion from kind of the UFO community itself, but I wanted to set that context because that's what I think about when I think about online community. And when I want to engage, when I open up X and read people's posts, I want to be stimulated by interesting reflections and thoughts. I want to be delighted by the things that that bring people joy. So when Akashi makes things and posts them, when Leia shares her interests and posts them, and DJ his interests, and like these things make me happy because I know these people, and they're putting this positive energy into the world. And sometimes you get a great response out of that. Sometimes you never even see the response, but I'm telling you, it has an effect, right? And that's the other thing I think we should acknowledge, is that there is downstream damage of pumping negative energy into these spaces. Even if you don't see it, it's creating waves of this negative energy that it ripples into people's lives. And that, you know, if you think about being an adult person who's responsible in the world, if I were to go into the supermarket and just started shouting at people and then just, you know, left, I mean, what kind of day have I left those people with? Like, absolutely horrid, like, it was horrible. I mean, how embarrassed would I be if that's what I'd caused people? So I don't think anybody thinks of it that way, unfortunately, because we've created this distance, this easy distance between us. And I really, it saddens me. So it's a long answer to your question, but I feel passionate about the community. I want to see it thrive, but it's very hard to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That totally makes sense.
I just saw that Dr. Tim Mounts is here. Hi, Dr. Tim.
What's up, Tim?
And what's interesting is I have sort of relayed your answer to that question to Bia, but now she got to hear it from you in a much longer form. And it kind of, for her, not having been here at the beginning, I mean, really at the beginning, it was just you and I, is now she understands why cab values are the way that they are, tracing back to what you just explained.
Yep.
So thank you, Bia. Excellent question. And next up, somebody who's going to try to do an Alberta accent at some point, either on the, I'm just kidding, or she's going to send me a YouTube video that has it while drinking a Molson. So anyway, Sati,
DJ.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi, Nathan. Well, I had one question, but now I'm changing it because everybody has like these really great questions.
So will yours be?
Well, I'll try.
Anna, break it up a little bit. Break it up a little bit. Just ask what you wanted to ask them.
No. Next time. Because this other question, actually, so if we're looking at religion and different religions, you know, they all think that they've got it figured out, right? And so, and they are the correct ones, right? So they've got the answers, and, you know, listen to us because we're right. And then there's all these different right. So my question is how, like, culturally, when it comes to disclosure and things like that, it's similar. So you have different cultures with different perspectives, different parts of the world, people with, various, and then, the religion part sort of mixed in. And then also you have indigenous people who have, been, seeing things and documenting seeing things for much, much longer. So my question is that who's, we have all of these different perspectives, and then is there a perspective that is given more importance than the other? I don't know if I've explained that.
Yeah,
correctly.
no, it's a very good question. And I think that certainty is a survival benefit. So we've not become a species that has gotten here because it's been, everybody's just like, tepid about stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do that. Or I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do this. And maybe I don't, this is not, I'm not sure. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm wrong. Like if this was our default mode, I don't think we would have made it this far. So certainty has become a beneficial tool to our survival. And you see that certainty baked into these belief systems. And I want to say as well, like, no one is immune from this. Like we've fooled ourselves into believing that, some people have religious beliefs, and I don't have any religious beliefs. I don't have any beliefs at all. I mean, everybody has something, right? And so if you cannot examine what you believe and what your framework of reality is, then that is I think it's a flaw. You need to be able to examine, how you look at the world and be able to say, confidently, I see the world this way because of X, whether it's my upbringing or an experience that I had or a mixture of those two. And that's generally what it is for everybody. So does anybody have a corner on the truth? Does anybody have they figured it out? Right. Well, first I would say, let's look at history. So has anybody in history figured it out? We sometimes we do come back to a lot of the great thinkers in history and say, you know what, they seem to have a lot of the answers, right? And we find a lot of truth that resonates over time. And I think that is true, that, some of the greatest thinkers in human history, from the Greeks and the Romans and other civilizations and the Asian cultures. I mean, there's so much wisdom that has come out of the human family. And it's worth celebrating that and revisiting that. But you see this happen. Everyone's journey is it's like everyone discovers a light bulb for the first time. It's like, look, did you guys know there are light bulbs over here? Like, I mean, everyone, like, as you grow up, you discover light bulbs, and the older people are like, yeah, we've known about light bulbs for quite a long time. But the younger people are like, no, seriously, it's a light bulb. It's amazing. Like, it's this incredible thing. And what I'm getting at there is that the human lifespan is incredibly short. And we look at old people, we think, oh my gosh, look how much time we have, and we have nothing. We are all children. We are born as children and we die as children. And we have no perspective to see that. And I think that understanding that helps us understand this answer to the question, who has the truth? And the truth is, everyone's got a little bit right and everyone's got a little bit wrong, And so if you want to stake your life on being true and having everything figured out, I think that's a misplaced, faith. I think that you're going to disappoint yourself, right? And if you're going to stake too hard on thinking that you've got it all figured out and everyone else doesn't, like, you're going to be disappointed. And that's okay. Like, I think I think coming to peace with that, like, there's this meditation that you may have heard of where people meditate on their own death, like they meditate on dying and what it's like to die. And think about how crazy and scary that can be, because we don't talk about death at all in our culture, and we hide it, and we pretend it doesn't actually happen. But they meditate on death, and I think that meditation allows them to be more at peace with death than anybody else who's never done that. So because you're forcing yourself to engage with this real thing that's going to happen to you, and instead of pretending it's not going to. So it's a long answer. I know a lot of my answers are long, but it's complicated. It's nuanced. I don't necessarily believe in a universal checklist of truths. That you could kind of this scroll that I could just here they are. I don't think that that's necessarily something that we should get too excited about. But I do find truth in so much of the lived experience. When you love somebody, you know that love is true. Like, you know it. And somebody else could look at that and be like, well, that's just your chemistry, and that's just, your hormones and all this kind of stuff. Well, who cares? Who cares? Like, let them have that perspective. For you, it is true, and that rings true for you, and it guides your life. So I think that's worth celebrating.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Did you like, John, are you good? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Before we move on, I know Bia's going to want to sing When You Love Somebody from Chicago. So go ahead, Bia. Not, she's like,
not singing. When you love somebody.
See, I knew that's what you were thinking. Beautiful. All right, let's move on to Sati, and then we're going to get in questions from the chat. Dr. Tim has a question, Debs has a question, and Ruthie has a question. So let's get in. Sati, please.
Okay, well, Nathan, I wrote down so many questions for you because I've watched your stuff previous, and I'm like, this guy is incredible. So I'm going to just shoot this one out right now. If you could grant humanity one philosophical breakthrough in understanding consciousness over the next decade, what would it be and why?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a wow.
No softballs here, Nathan. We're not throwing them right over the plate. You're going to have to reach your bat a little bit.
I mean, Santi broke his brain, I think.
I think, let's go with the big questions. What happens after we die? right? I mean, what happens to us after we die? And I think that everybody wrestles with that, and you know, you're going to carry with you a very comfortable story. Hopefully, it's a salve. You know, like nothing happens to me after I die, or I go and meet my relatives who passed on before me, or I become another being, or I become like we all have created these things that help us navigate that the ultimate uncertainty, truly. But I think that you know, I take comfort in what I have heard in this community, what I've heard in other communities in the near death experience community, like that. Those are powerful experiences that tell me we there is still mystery left to explore. And how exciting would that be if it is true that this is just a small piece of a much larger journey? How cool would it be, right? To wake from this life and stumble into a new experience where you meet people that you've known before, and you say, wait a minute, like you were that person, and we had this time together on this show together, but I've also known you in these other iterations. Like, how exciting would that be? What a fun campfire would that be? Swapping the stories of the lives that we've had, of the places that we've been, that we've not been together, and the journeys that we have been together, the hikes that we've shared over these rugged mountains.
That's awesome, Nathan. Thank you. I've actually had 2 near-death experiences in this lifetime.
Wow.
And the way that I came into this lifetime is pretty incredible, with past life remembrances and speaking languages nobody in my family understood.
Wow.
So there's so many things I could talk to you about, but that was a great answer. And thank you so much for that, sir.
Thank you.
I love that Justin was here, or is here, your brother.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He is, man. What a great guy. Justin, for those of you who don't know, because I know other iterations of Cabbies do know this, but Justin is one of the pioneers of the minimalist shoe running movement. He has tested from everything, brands that you've never even heard of, that are modeled, you know, starting with Vibram 5 fingers and then moving all the way through ultras and different types of, even the huarache sandals like the Mexican runners would use down in the Tarahumara or the Raramuri, if you want to. They refer to them in 2 different ways. Justin has tested, run in everything minimalist that you could think of, and now there's everything from Lems to, you know, Vivo Barefoot to everything you can imagine. So shout out Justin Owings.
He's got an amazing shoe collection.
Yes. Oh, his shoe collection, there's no way. And here's the thing that's going to freak you guys out, that all of you on the panel that don't know this. I knew of Justin before I met Nathan. How about that?
Yeah.
Before Nathan was my co-host, I was already consuming Justin's writings on minimalist shoes, because every shoe I have is minimalist. So but Nathan would tell you that I was consuming that because eventually Nathan would be my co-host.
That's right.
So there you go.
We're entangled, DJ.
We are
They're
definitely
quantumly entangled.
Yes.
All right, let me find, where's Dr. Tim? Oh man, I thought I started for Dr. Tim Mounts. So Dr. Tim, if you're still there, put your question in again, because I went to the stuff that was starred and I'm not seeing it. So, which means I screwed up.
While you look for that, can I share one little picture?
Oh yeah,
I think I can, right?
Yes, please do it.
Yes.
The right one. Hold on. I want to make sure, because I have 3 Nathans. Hold on. Oh, that's just the wrong one.
Let's see
Hold
all
on.
3.
We have
Not Nathan's
don't know where they
OnlyFans. Don't
went.
share that one.
Oh, God.
Oh, it says, hold on. It said there's an issue. No, we're not going to share that.
Okay.
It's not. Let me just share screen, I guess. I don't know why
geez,
it's not
there it
popping
is.
up.
I will
Go.
put. I'll put.
Yeah, do that.
I'll put the
Do
groundhog
that
one.
next.
Okay.
No,
Nathan,
yeah, do that.
do you believe there's a psychic connection between some people and the Sasquatch?
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, if Sasquatch is a sentient being and we're sentient beings, I think that there is a connection. So there's some sort of connection. Yeah, I would love to see one. Some of those stories are absolutely as compelling or even more compelling than some of the stories you hear about in the UFO community.
No question. And it would appear that some people certainly do. Just from anecdotally speaking, it would seem that some people do have a connection. And that's why I think I've spoken with some people on the panel here about grounding, going into when you go in the forest and you're going to an area where there's a known Bigfoot sightings, tracks have been found, is to start off. I don't care how cold it is, take your shoes off, ground yourself for a couple of minutes, project your intention into the space, and then begin your expedition from there. And that could yield a less aggressive encounter than what some people have had. And some of those are based on, if you're hunting in that area and they're also hunting, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's all right. What else do we got here? Okay. This is okay. Got that one. This one gets to dark matter. So Ruthie Robles, another one of our moderators, said, how do higher dimensions fit into string theory? And could dark matter be leaking from a parallel universe? If you believe in dark matter, what do you think it may come from? Heaven, hell, for example?
Wow, thanks, Ruthie. Yeah, that's a big one. Well, first of all, I'm not a physicist, so I want to put that disclaimer out there. It should be
disclaimer. Go ahead, do the
entering into this one I know very little about. So as many things I know very little about. Yeah, I mean, dark matter is a fascinating mystery, right? I mean, you can talk to physicists, and most of them, can tell you that there is something there. We don't know what it is, and most of the mass of the universe seems to be from that stuff that we can't even seem to find. The universe works in the way that it does. And, I think this is one of those mysteries that we are, we've been probing and unraveling, and maybe the scientific approaches that we've used thus far are starting to sort of fail. As we reach the edges of what certain methodologies provide us, I think we start seeing their failures, right? So they take you so far, and then you find out what their limitations happen to be. And so this is certainly an area where we have those limitations. Now, what is in the void? Like where does the void come from, and from whence does it arise? Right? These are the things that we have wrestled with forever. We've sometimes called it, sort of the Kraken or whatever. What is this thing that dwells beneath the surface, and what is this thing that we wrestle with that we can't understand in our own subconscious? We barely understand ourselves. How do we understand the universe at large? I think there's a parallel there that is important, that there is a lot that's happening below the surface of our awareness, that we are fine-tuned to see reality in a certain slice, but most of reality is happening outside of that band. And so, where does it come from? I think that it doesn't come from anywhere. It's just there. It's just that we can't perceive it.
Thank you, Nathan. I know it's difficult when there is some of these questions require that you have a knowledge of physics and things like that. But thank you for asking that question, Ruthie Robles. I just want to follow up real quickly before I turn it over to Primetime. I have a two-parter here that are unrelated, so forgive me, panel, for stealing Nathan for this length of time. The mantid being, is that a projection, the 8 foot? Do you think that the 8 foot is significant, that for some reason that these intelligences see that height in our culture demands respect and somehow infers dominance or something? Do you think that is the actual physical size, or do you think that's a projection of a physical size it thinks will command respect among us?
I mean, I just sort of always assumed it was because they were fans of the NBA.
They're like, I could be playing. Nobody could stop me from getting to the rim. Okay.
I mean, can you imagine trying to score on that thing? No way.
No.
How many balls would you go through?
But you know who could is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. DJ and I talked about this last weekend. Just saying.
The bar with the skyhook, unstoppable. Totally. And then that kid in San Antonio, the young French guy, is about 7'4" or 5". His name is escaping me off the top of my head, but young Frenchman right out of high school into the NBA. But so you think that's an actual size, not a projection?
Yeah, it's a good question. I certainly think it can be. I don't see why not. And you hear about giants are a part of many mythologies. There are these beings that are, and of course humans have gotten taller over the years as well. But perhaps we were in some distant past. Our size now would be considered diminutive to humans who lived before us or other beings. I mean, I think what's interesting about that though is just how does that. I'm gonna please allow me to go here for a second, but as a man, right? I don't think about size all that much because men don't have to think about that with the luxury of not having to think about physical size all that much. And I don't want to speak for the ladies on the panel. I'd love to hear their thoughts, but navigating the world as a lady is different, and so how would human beings and the men who often unfortunately lead many of our countries, how would they experience and react to beings that are are significantly taller than them, and to understand that you are physically like absolutely nothing to these beings? I mean, how would that change your outlook and your stance on stuff? And unfortunately, I think the answer to that would be pretty bad. We'd throw every weapon we could possibly throw at it out of fear. Which if you take that, to what I just talked about, it's amazing the women haven't wiped us out.
Oh, they will. It's just going to take a little bit more time. Yeah. My second question, I'm not going to ask now because I want to get Debs in there and I want to get to the panel. I want to get another round. So Debs's question for you is, and I want to read it verbatim. What truths have you been able to confirm after years of research on the phenomenon? And this is a great question.
Yeah.
From the third member of CAB ever, Debs.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. I definitely believe that consciousness is fundamental. That's the one thing that I think I have come away from this entire enterprise, holding to be true. And that's something that I didn't really fully grasp, at all coming before ufology. That even could be a perspective. I was unfamiliar with idealism, that consciousness could be the root of all reality. I was definitely a materialist. Just thought that all the stuff that we call intelligence, comes from the firing of neurons, and that's just how it is. And I didn't never really consider the idea that just our awareness, our perception, is what creates reality. So that to me is about as far as I can go in terms of truth claims, other than to say that I believe people who share the things that they've shared. I meet them where they are. I'm not gonna sort of look down on folks who have these very strong experiences that they're sharing with me, and I look at it as a gift that they're willing to share it with me to begin with, right? I mean, talk about a period of vulnerability. It's not like telling you that I have a fear of onions. It's like I had an earth-shattering experience that has reframed my relationship to the world and the universe and everyone around me. And this is what it was. This is how I got here. It was through these crazy beings, and I'm telling you about this. Okay, well, let me take your experience and let me just sort of laugh at you for a few minutes. Like, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take you at your word, and I'm going to try to walk a little bit of distance with you and see where that road takes us.
This is the reason why you should be going with a Bermuda onion, one of those purple onions, not as strong. So you should think about that. Anyway, let's go to Leah Primetime.
On that note,
the segues are, it's difficult.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Flawless.
Yeah.
So Nathan, the subject of the day, or the subject of our moment, really is AI, right? Like, we're undergoing major technological transformation with the advent of AI in business, popular culture, and even like in how we understand consciousness and like theories of the mind. What's your sense of how artificial intelligence interfaces with or relates to the phenomenon? And do you see it as like a net positive or negative for exploring this subject?
Wonderful question. And I want to credit Leah for, when I wanted to learn more about AI, I knew who to go to, and she was a resource that I asked for some recommendations, and I really appreciate that. I think that it's a good and a bad. I think that we certainly see the negatives. The negatives are quite clear in the current moment, and then there are looming negatives that are less clear to most people who are familiar with AI and kind of the trajectory that we are on. But the more obvious negatives right now is this sort of algorithmic feedback looping, that we get into, that it really kind of caters to some of our worst tendencies. And, there have already been many cases of people who have, killed themselves through relationship with AI, or, have come to these conclusions about the world that don't seem to sit well with the way the world actually is. And that's, it's very dangerous. I think that there is, if you can entertain for a moment that time is not what we think it is, that time is not linear in the way we think it is, then AI is absolutely a part of the phenomena. Like it is in our perceived future. It's the train coming down the track. We can all look at that. It is coming. But if the future has already occurred, and we can think about it more abstractly, the future just is, then it is a part. It is embedded into reality itself. It's part of the past already. It's there. And so, in what way is it there, and how is it interacting with us, and how are we interacting with it? And clearly, there's this kind of symbiotic, dynamic relationship between us and that intelligence. And I find, like, the other thing that's weird, and I still wrestle with quite a bit, is like this dichotomy that we've created between a biological intelligence and an artificial one. Like it seems very obvious to us now, but let's extrapolate where we're going here, and that the line between these kinds of intelligences could be completely obliterated. I don't really think that.
I mean, that's like Heidegger's whole thing, right, with the techne and like the coevolution of human with technology. Yeah. I mean, I bring this up without personally endorsing this man's ideas, but like Nick Land talks a lot about this idea that there's like the AI at the end of time that's basically pulling us forward towards its sort of creation and completion.
Like a Teilhard de Chardin sort of.
Oh yeah.
If I can add this,
he's like the white-pilled Nick Land.
There you go.
If I can add this, because it's very topical, Sam Harris did an episode with this gentleman about the consciousness of AI, about some of the tests that have been conducted. I meant to put this in our cab host chat, and because I haven't, I just want to alert everybody to it. I think Making Sense is the name of this podcast, whether it's on audio or on YouTube. But it's very topical to what you're talking about, Leah. And this guy's an expert in the field. I can't remember the people he said he's had dialogue with, but all the really, really heavy hitters from the different producers of AI, the Google Gemini, ChatGPT, etc.
Yeah, and if I could also add to a book that I really enjoyed, and my brother, I don't know if he's still in the chat, he and I, it's one of our favorite sci-fi books series, is the Hyperion Cantos from Dan Simmons.
Oh yeah.
So Dan certainly wrestles with this idea, and there's this kind of battle of sorts between like God as we God and AI God. There's this sort of dynamic between the two, and this it's really interesting, very thought-provoking.
Let's go to Akashi Chris.
There I am. Hi again, Nathan.
Welcome back.
I can't wait to ask my question. If I was to ask about the weather, show the thing in the backstage. Look,
Pop it
DJ.
up quick, yeah.
Yeah, if we had to ask about whether we're going to have an early spring next year, we could ask Brother Nathan Phil. And I'm sure he would have the answer. But seriously speaking, I don't have an actual question. But we had to show that because he's so cute. I love it so much. I mean, like I put in a poster. It's adorable. Okay, so I finally watched Disclosure Day. I live in Oklahoma, in the country, so I rarely go to the movies. So I actually watched it yesterday with my husband. So this actually made me think about something I wanted to ask you. At the end of the movie, and don't want to ruin everything, but basically, I am ruining it by saying it.
Uh-oh. Bring
Did Steven Spielberg strike her?
Yeah.
She was about to talk about something
Oh,
she's not
wow.
supposed to talk about.
Gosh, you come back in.
They kicked
She
her
muted
out.
herself for no spoilers.
Just no spoilers, yeah.
Right. That was crazy.
The black helicopters got her.
No,
That's it.
I was trying to kick out the groundhog so that that way if someone else tries to come in, there's a space. So we got to get Akashi back in. Here we go. Hi, Akashi.
You kicked me out of the stream, man.
No, I was trying to kick out the groundhog. There we go. Okay.
You
Oh,
kicked
now I
me
gotta
out of the
reorder
stream. I'm like,
everybody.
I was going to ask the question, and now I'm
Yeah.
totally lost about my question.
You left
But
us on the
okay, I don't know
cliffhanger at
what
the
you
end of the
heard.
movie. You
So
said at the end of the
you
movie,
heard
don't
disclosure
spoil it.
day. So disclosure happens tomorrow exactly like the movie as far as it's totally undeniable. Everybody sees it, right? Everybody always says, oh, if it's not going to change, I still have to pay my bills. I still have to have a job. I don't want to talk about the mental, but let's say that we find out that they're actually here. They've been here the whole time. What literally happens 6 months down the line? How is life different, in your opinion? What does our daily life look like that's really different at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. Whew, it's a powder keg right now. Let's just call it what it is. The world's a powder keg right now, and I think unless this revelation is going to help solve some of these larger problems that we have in the world, I don't see those problems getting better. I think unrest will continue, and people will, demand further answers. They will storm Area 51. They're like we heard from a few years ago. Humans we get pretty cantankerous. We don't have the things that we think we need. And, my hope, of course, would be that this would unite us, that this would, kind of help us put aside these squabbles and help bring us together. But the things that divide us are things that have been dividing us for centuries, right? So, they're different belief systems and, just different power grabs and resource grabs. I mean, these are things that keep us at each other's throats all the time. So unless we can help solve some of those problems, I don't see it getting to be a kumbaya state by any means. And then there's just all the other downstream things that I think will come from a revelation like that. And there'll be a lot of soul searching as well, where we have to re-examine many facets of our lives, right? Like, what was this experience that I had when I was younger? Are you telling me, wait, that was an actual, like that was real, or my aunt or my uncle told me about this thing, and I made fun of them. You're telling me I have to apologize now? Like I have to, make amends with, like, there's a lot of stuff that it comes downstream from this. So it's not going to be love and light, I don't think, not without a lot of pain to get there.
It's weird to think, like education. Are they going to change everything that they teach? Sorry, DJ. Just so many things that, just start to kind of unravel. Go ahead, DJ.
No, I think Tim has the most important grievance of the night, which is the loss of Reese's Pieces. And, I mean, maybe we can all just kind of
Take a moment of silence.
a moment of silence for Reese's Pieces. Any of you? Sati like that one. Okay.
Cracking up.
Let's go.
It's cracking up.
I was like, okay, Reese's
Boston.
Pieces.
Boston Bia. We're gonna get you in there, Debs. We just gotta go around the horn with everybody, and then we'll get you in there. Go ahead, Boston Bia.
All right. What I'm really curious to know is if you can go back in time, what would you tell little Nathan about what you were about to come upon? So give it to us.
Oof, geez, holy cow.
Give us all the details.
Yeah. Well, geez, there's so many things that when you're fortunate enough to live long enough, you have enough things that you regret, right? So there are certainly some things that I would say, hey, don't do this. Don't spend your time with this person or doing this thing or whatever. Like, just invest your energy over here. It's going to be the return is so much better. Just trust me, the return will be better if you go this way, not that way. But that aside, I think the biggest thing that would rock my younger self would be, explaining that there is an intersection between the religion that I was raised in and raised to appreciate, and the religious beliefs of the friends that I had who came from different religious traditions, that all of that was meaningful in a way that I really have no idea. Like that there's one way of understanding that, and there's so much more to it. And then this phenomena, I think, has absolutely enriched my understanding of faith and spirituality and all those things. So yeah, but it is one of those questions. Like we all ask ourselves that question, right? Like, what would we do, or what would we tell our younger self? But then there's that pesky little thing called wisdom, right? And so I could tell my younger self, hey, read these books, and hey, talk to this person and not that person. But so much of our experience is like somatic, like it comes from just the lived experience. Like if we don't go through it, we don't actually understand it, right? And I mean, I got kids. I know this for a fact. I could spend all kinds of time saying, hey, listen, understand this. Like you try to the best way to explain something to them, and it just it just goes straight past them. They have no freaking clue because they've never lived it.
And just want to say that Anjali's here. Hi, Anjali.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, we had a mantid question earlier. So if you end up coming in, we'll get you in here to answer that question. You know what? Let me send her the link in case she wants to answer it. So while I'm doing that, thank you. Great question, Boston, Bia. And now we're going back to Canada again, but we're going closer to where there are more Bigfoot residing. And that is where Jonna lives. So go for it, Jonna.
Thank you. So you had mentioned poetry, Nathan, and I love art. I think art can heal, and all different kinds of art. I just love it, and specifically poetry. So my question is, who's your favorite poet? And okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Wordsworth was big for me. I really enjoyed that, and Yeats, and the Romantics, John Donne. Yeah, I mean, all of them. I just love it. I love. This is what I love about music as well. Like language is so symbolic just by nature. Like when we're talking to each other, we can understand anything, but packing all of this stuff in these little discrete things that we call words and space and sound, like, and letting that do the work that paragraphs and chapters do, like that is so powerful to me. Like I absolutely love that. They're these little viruses that get into our brains, and they unzip all this content in our minds, and that's so cool.
And then my grandmother and my other family members encouraged me to pursue it. They saw no conflict in it.
I'm trying to make sure if I got the
they
word.
They knew
and
this was where the knowledge for the future was.
That's interesting. Because that is kind of where
I wanted to get. This was Matt, and they went into the difference between meaning and understanding. So I just don't remember. I have 3 clips from Matt's episode, which I think should live in infamy. It's so good. Let me see if is it this one?
I mean, how much of this stuff, the mystical stuff, do you attribute to just things that we just don't really understand yet scientifically?
100%.
I was going to say, do you think there's anything out there? I mean, it's such a hard concept to even grasp, but the idea that there are things that defy all explanations, even beyond our own comprehensions or whatever, there's actually something truly mystical out there. Or is it just stuff that we don't have the right sensory organs, or we don't have the right tools of measurement to understand it at this point?
Both. It's 100% both. And you're going to get that answer to a lot of questions tonight. It's 100% both. We don't understand anything. See, this is the thing. At the core of it, we don't understand anything. Now, we know how some things work, but do we understand it? Understanding and being able... I don't know how a combustion engine works, but I can drive a car.
Yeah.
You know, I could not build a computer. I don't really know how a computer works, but I use them all the time. So it's kind of like that. Our very physical sciences, our Newtonian physics, clearly is just missing a piece of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that it just has not factored in yet, which I suspect is consciousness. That's underpinning
There we go,
the whole
Nathan.
thing. So is there something out there? Clearly there is. Do we have any inkling what it is, or have we ever? Probably not. Can we even know? I don't know. I mean, we're limited by primate brains. And even though we have a very advanced...
I'm just going to cut that one off there. Let me see if this is meaning and understanding.
But isn't it interesting that you have all these different communities of people, all these, I mean, just civilization, just different societies all over the world, different belief systems, everything, religions, all the different things, where there's so many things that are talked about and just different names applied to them, but they're all talking about the same things.
Yeah, exactly.
How can you
mentioned
not
earlier.
see that as acknowledgement that these things do exist and are very real?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, humans are fear-based, and I find the more committed a given person is to their belief system, the more willing they are to shut out parts of observable reality. So on the religious end, people are going to, you know, immediately go to demon, no matter what it is. And then on the science end, they're going to go to, oh, that can't be real because it doesn't fit our Newtonian physics. Both of those are fear responses, in my opinion. You know, because they are desperately clinging to their certainty in a given story, and they don't want anything that's going to interfere with that story. You know, they're looking for confirmation biases. They're not looking for mysteries outside of their bailiwick.
Right.
But yeah, these things are everywhere. They're constant. They've always been going on. They're always described. You can go to any culture on Earth and you're going to find these stories. And that's like with my ancestors.
Uh-oh.
That's underpinning the whole thing. So
Yeah.
is there something out there?
Yeah,
Clearly there is.
I got to go back and make more clips of this because there's ones where they talk about meaning and understanding, but I didn't want to keep you guys too long on Matt's clip. But he said words are poor vessels because I may say a word and I mean something, but you may understand something different than what I meant. So there's a difference between words, their meaning, and then understanding is something different. So that's kind of what you were getting at. If you guys haven't, if you go back, and I can put it in the show notes, this episode of Bigfoot Crossroads with Matt Knapp should be in the Podcast Hall of Fame because, I mean, Nathan, just your reaction to what you heard there.
No, it's great. I love it. And I there's a lot of, you'll hear a lot of what I say, you know, echoed in what he's saying. But I think that's what's challenging is that he's right. You know, there's a lot we don't understand. There's a lot we don't know. And I think that can be thrown around pretty flippantly as well, because just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it can't be understood. Right. So
I agree.
There are incredibly brilliant people in our world who have amazing capabilities to understand things that most of us can't grasp. And I find that to be absolutely beautiful. And so it creates some friction in our society right now in particular, right? That there's this gap between knowledge and ignorance. And we, unfortunately, I think we have too often in the last couple of decades, we've championed ignorance as sort of a badge of honor. Like, you know, I'm not a PhD and I'm not I don't need that. You know, I know what's right. You know, And I put on my Southern accent. And that's not fair to the Southerners because there are a lot of brilliant Southerners.
But you are a Southerner, by the
And
way.
I am Southerner, so I can say that. I can't.
And so was Steve, who you just heard talking.
Absolutely.
So obviously.
So yeah, I guess to my point there, point I want to make is that we're all on our own journeys, right? And some of us are going to come into this world and solve incredible problems and bring so much knowledge to the world that is a light illuminating this darkness, this dark aspect of what we understand. And those people are incredible. And there are those of us who come into the world and we never leave our hometowns. You know, we never leave the bounds of our city limits. And that's the entire world we know. And you know, we can easily look at those two lives and say, oh, well, this Nobel Prize person, like they're much more valuable than that person who's never left their town, you know? And I think that, you know, in some respects, that's true. But in ultimate respect, it's not, because at some point, I think we're all that person that never leaves town. And at some point, we all get to be that Nobel laureate and whatnot. I think that that's the way that consciousness evolves, that it gets to grow and it gets to push and challenge and learn and we're all a part of that journey. We're all that family going through that process together. And that to me is the exciting story that I like to hold on to.
And this is why when I go to my hometown and I love and engage with the people that have been there and stayed there, I never start to tell about my experiences, where I've been, what I've done. It's not important. It's not important. If they want to know, they'll ask me. And if they do, I'll answer them. But I'm not better than they are because I've been to wherever I've been and done whatever I did. I regard them just as well as I regard colleagues of mine that have been around the world doing this, that, and the other thing. So I agree with you. And that's a great way to put it. It doesn't matter whether you're doing janitorial work in my high school or whether you're a PhD. It doesn't make you more valuable to be one than the other. In fact, you could argue that the kids in the school actually really, really value the work that the janitorial staff does to make the school look as beautiful and presentable as it does. So I think we had Sati next. Is that correct? Yes?
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Sarah.
Okay. All right, Nathan. So I'm going to kind of play off of Leah, what Leah was talking about last, because I wanted to ask you this. It seems like modern technology seems to be fragmenting human experience and attention. So from a philosophical and cognitive standpoint, what do you feel happens to human self-awareness, contemplation, and inner peace when society trades depth of attention for constant digital stimulation?
Yeah. Ooh, well, we all suffer for it. I think I pick up a book. If you're not a reader and you pick up a book and you used to be a reader and you pick it up, you know, after a few years of not reading regularly, you'll feel the pain of trying to get through a chapter that you once could get through multiple chapters, or maybe a book in one sitting even. It's our attentions have been atrophied. And you know, other ways that it impacts our lives, I think about work. I think about all of the things that cross my desk every day. All of the stream of information that crosses my awareness every single day. And I think back to like just watching my parents, you know, when I was growing up, the work that they did and how that work was done, and you know, just entirely different, like very different ways of encountering the day to day and getting things done. And we can do all the things we do today, and we can still go away and say, man, we could be more productive. We could do a lot more. We could keep going. I mean, yes, we can. At what cost, right? At what cost? So, it is a tremendous challenge. And I think that we are the generations that are, unfortunately, for better or worse, like we're having to go through these birthing pains of what this, you know, we're ushering this into reality. We're ushering this technology, at least into ours. and we're dealing with the birth pains of what that entails. We're not going to see, we may, but I don't know that we will. We're not going to see the downstream where we've figured a lot of this out. Hopefully, knock on wood, we survive it. We figured this out and what that looks like. And honestly, we may not. We may look at the challenges that those future generations face, and we may say, "Ooh, I don't want those either." And we can look back in the past and look at the challenges older generations faced and say, "Yeah, I don't want that either. I don't think that looks good." So, as my dad said to me once, he said, "You can get all all these people in a room. You can get everybody into a room, and you can ask them to put their problems in the center of the room, so that everybody can see them." And everyone's going to take their own problems back. So, what he's getting at there is we've all got these challenges, and so yes, absolutely, technology I think is it's a problem, and it's hurting us, and we're dealing with the ways in which it's hurting us, and we're trying to come up with answers to that. We're doing a poor job of it. I mean, our children are suffering because of our poor job of being able to navigate this, and we suffer as well. But will we ultimately figure it out? I'm an optimist. I think that we will, if we survive it, right? Not without some scars.
That would be awesome, Nathan. That was great. I personally am the person that will shut my phone off for days and not look at it. I don't do a whole lot on social media because being a shaman, I'm really connected to nature. I need the balance. I really, truly need the balance. And if there's too much noise through social media, too much noise through too much stuff going on with physical beings, it gets really, really difficult because then I can't focus on what I'm here to do because it just clutters the mind way too much. So I'm very old school, and Akashi knows this. She is my tech guru because I suck at technology. But it's because it just doesn't align with me. It truly doesn't align with me. So I know we need it, but balance for me is so important. I'm the person that will pick up the book because I love to read, and there's just so many other ways of getting knowledge and that. So I was just really curious what your take was on this, because I know for myself, and I can only speak for myself, what it does to me and how I've had to work through that. Because I mean, if we went back to when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and we had to write everything, and that, I'm still old school because, as you can see, I write everything. I have thousands of these notepads, and that's where it's at for me. So awesome. Thank you, Nathan.
No, thank you. That's great.
Yeah. And I'll, two for the price of one. My classmates and I often talk about that we're very glad that we didn't grow up in this era with the cell phone, and that a lot of our connection is due to that we didn't have that technology. So we had to call on this telephone or write letters. It was, these kinds of things. And we are very happy that we grew up that way, and that it was a lot of getting together physically rather than what we're doing now. That said, progress doesn't halt. That's just, that's the way progress is. It would be like saying, you know what, I'm going to drive up to Canada to see Jana, but I'm just going to use maps and not use my GPS. And that's not something that I would do, right? Because I don't know the way, and I wouldn't want to challenge myself with just using road maps and calling, what was it? I can't remember the name of the driving company that they do insurance, but basically you would contact them, call them, and they would send you the maps. AAA, and they would send you the maps for your journey. I'm going to use GPS because GPS is available. I need to know how to use maps if I'm in the woods so I don't get lost, because if my GPS watch fails or something, or my handheld GPS, but I'm going to use GPS when I'm driving, or Apple Maps or something like that. So that's just, progress is what it is, and you just have to manage it the way that Sati does.
But DJ, let me add one thing though.
Yes,
how
ma'am.
amazing is it that we're all in different states and we're sitting here having conversations? So I think there's also another trade-off. Trade-off, because we probably wouldn't all be sitting here chatting like we're literally just face to face.
We wouldn't. So we just lost somebody, but I want to get Sarah and Shock and Horror. Yeah. Sarah.
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, I will just quickly say, to solve the problem of not being able to read a paper map, do what I do and don't go into the woods. But I digress. So this one is a little bit different because I wasn't mentally prepared to ask two questions. So thank you for the opportunity, but also I'm thinking on the fly.
Okay.
If money were no object, Nathan, and you could go anywhere in the world and spend some time looking at areas where any type of phenomena has been reported, any one of your choice, where would you focus on and why?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great one. I'll give you a couple answers. Well, I'm gonna give you three answers. One would be Antarctica. I think that would be pretty cool. Two would be Egypt. I've not been. I think that would be pretty cool. And three, I want to say Alaska, the Alaskan wilderness. So yeah, I don't know. There's some weird stuff, but I mean, honestly, there's weird stuff everywhere. Oh my gosh! Like my family got a chance to go to Ireland recently, and we went to a prehistoric site north of Dublin called Newgrange. And these prehistoric peoples, they built this incredible structure. They're many thousands of years ago. They're like, I think, older than the pyramids or around the same time. And there's astrological alignment with these structures, and the sun, I think it's the summer solstice, no, winter solstice. I think it comes in, like the light comes into this passageway and illuminates this inner chamber that's like many, many feet from the entrance. And it's the only time of the year where the light perfectly illuminates that chamber. And the knowledge and wisdom to achieve that, like they have these gigantic granite bowls on the inside they're so big they couldn't have been lifted and brought into the chamber. Like they built the entire structure around these basins. It's just incredible. And I think that's another thing I will say about this phenomena that has really, and Kashi will, I know, echo this, like it has given me a new appreciation for our human past. That, growing up and being taught about our human history, we just think, look at these idiots back here. Look at all this technology we got, we're pretty smart. And it's just really shown me that we just know so little. And they were just as brilliant, if not more than we were.
Love it.
Thank you, Sarah and Schockenhauer. We ended up, actually, Primetime did let me know she needed to bolt at what would have been 8:30 your time. So that's why she's left. I think this was our last round and we can get out of here. Nathan, I'd like you, for our audience, to put into context your colleague, Darren, Exo-Academian.
Yeah. Where do I begin? Okay. So, Darren is a very unique person. I've not met a Darren before, nor since. He's a unique mind, and he has challenged me quite a bit in the way that he wrestles with this topic. And he's one of those people who can just hyper focus on a subject, like just it's all consuming, and it is. That's how his entire life is spent, on this now. Like that's what he does, is think about it and write about it and talk about it. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and the work that he's done. We have similar backgrounds. Those of you who've listened to our show, Liminal Frames, you'll know that we both have a religious studies background. Darren's religious upbringing is a little different than mine. I grew up in a very liberal, progressive Christian tradition, and Darren his Christian journey went through various different traditions, conservative, like Pentecostal adjacent, Orthodox. I mean, he's gone through all kinds of different phases. And so he's had a wide exposure, which is really wonderful because it adds to his ability to speak to this from different perspectives. But, I was thinking about this before the show, that the way that I was raised, my relationship with Christianity is pretty different than most Christians that I knew growing up. Not just because I was a preacher's kid. My relationship to Christianity was different than other preacher's kids that I knew too. So I was given a very broad sort of latitude in what I was allowed to ask and explore, and that was encouraged, and you know, thinking about interesting things and asking difficult questions, like that was just part of my upbringing. And so, you know, meeting Darren, we hit it off immediately. Like we could talk about inside baseball when it came to religion, and you know, how it influences people's perspectives on the world, and the ways in which we were taught about Christianity. So if you go through any sort of Christian academic training, or, you know, that would be considered to be kind of liberal academia, like you're going to be taught things about like the historical critical method, which basically means that as you're reading the Bible, you're not reading it as what it says on face. You're reading it in a context. You want to understand this was written in a certain period of time. This is what was happening in history. This was the person who wrote it. This is what this, you know, if they're using this particular Greek word or phrase, this is how it's used in other pieces of work from the same period of time. And so it has a metaphorical relationship like to other pieces of work. You know, one thing that I learned in seminary that I'm sure Darren was taught as well is the power of rhetoric. So I didn't even know this, and maybe many of you don't know this, but people who were raised in Hellenic culture and the Greek culture were incredible. They had an incredible ability to memorize things. So if you think about how knowledge was shared, right? They're not like they're handing books around. They're not like passing stone tablets. Like they're sharing information verbally. And if you couldn't remember this information, like you didn't have it, like you just is gone. So their ability to orate and share that information that way, and for people to hear it and hold all that information up in here while they're going through, like that's something that none of us can really do very well. But if it's like if we're watching a movie, this is the closest parallel I can think of. If you're watching a movie and if you're a movie critic, right, you're looking for the way that they're using light and the way that they're using symbols in the movie and the way that they're calling back to scenes that happened in the first act is in the third act, and you're like, oh, look what the director did here. They did this cool thing. They're doing all of that just in their brains. And so when we read the Bible, you know, we're like, we just like hit the ejector button on that. We're not doing that at all. We're just like, oh, like this is a literal thing here. Like he's talking about this, and we don't even realize the things that were happening in the minds of the Greek people who would have heard that story. So Darren and I could talk that language. You know, the last thing I'll say about him, and I know because I'm going a little bit off the track there, but I think it's helpful information that, you know, his view on the phenomena is not something anyone's talking about. It's really just, it's not being talked about. And I can't explain it in a quick soundbite, but it is essentially that reality is a sort of nested series of meaning making. Like there is a fractal quality to reality that extends like infinitely up and infinitely down. And are encounters happening with beings? Yes. Are some of these encounters happening in what we would call like traditionally imaginary realms? Yes. It's happening in all these different places. And I don't see other people discussing that. It's because it's really difficult just to kind of explain. It's very challenging. But it gets back to this idea that the mind is at the root of all reality. And so the best correlation I can give you is when you're in a dream state and your dreams are going all kinds of places. You know, you're like, you're over here, you're over there, you instantly think this, and you're here, you know, and you come out of that dream, and your psychoanalyst says, tell me about your dream. You say, well, this was in the dream. And then that psychoanalyst says, oh, well, you know what that is? That's because you have this issue with your spouse, or this issue with your parent, or you're going through this challenge with like, they're seeing all this other stuff. And that's what reality is like as well. It is this meaning, it's this deep, rich meaning association that we are all a part of. And the phenomena is a part of it. It's a part of it. It's coming to us in this way. It's arising in our awareness in this way because it's embedded in the nature of reality. Anyway, he's fascinating. He's got a book coming out soon. So I saw the cover of it recently. That was pretty cool. So it's definitely happening in the near term. I haven't read it yet, but I'm supposed to be able to get a copy soon, so I'm excited about it. But I'm a big fan. But he has a lot more certainty about this than I do. So if you listen to our show, you know, Darren speaks from a place of conviction. Like he knows, like I know this is how it is, and this, you know, he's a lot more confident in what this is than I am. But I I understand the core principles of what he's sharing, even if I don't, even if I'm going to say, well, I don't really know if a mantis being is a real being, you know, I'm not really sure. I honestly haven't made any ontological, I haven't put any ontological stakes in the ground yet on some of this stuff, but I'm holding space for it.
I don't know that he could have found a better co-host than you, nor you found a better co-host than he. I guess last question is, did the freedom of maneuver that and that's a military term, so forgive me and everybody, did the freedom of maneuver that your parents gave you sort of inform the type of great relationship that you have with them now? And did it turn out differently for pastors, kids, friends, colleagues of yours, where the family tried to have a very tight grip on their thinking and their everyday movements?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to push back on something you just said, because I have another great co-host and he's right next to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just, like you and Darren fit so well in that the liminal frames. Like, I don't think we could have found two better hosts for this type of a show, but thank you. I do appreciate that. And it means a lot coming from you, Nathan.
Well, we have an awesome show that we do here, and there's a fun mix that we get into that I could never pull that off with Darren. He's just not that. I mean, he has a great sense of humor, but he's not you, DJ. So we get to do fun things here that I couldn't do there, and it's not just the fun either. It's the truly beautiful human experience that we get by sharing it with all these wonderful people. And I don't get to do that with Darren. So I thank you for everything that you've done. But about my parents and other preachers' kids, absolutely. So, I mean, and it's a complicated story because I have two siblings. So the three of us were close in age, and we all have very different relationship to our faith than when we did when we were younger now, but we have a very loving family. Like it's nobody does not have a seat at the table. Everyone's welcome. And we wrestle with this stuff together. But I absolutely can think of peers of mine who I grew up with who had a very different experience. There was a girl who, her dad was the pastor of basically the other Baptist church in town, another very large church. And I grew up in a large church family, a couple thousand church members. And I was growing up in that context of having all these thousands of people's eyes on you every Sunday. What's the preacher's kid doing? Is it getting into trouble? And I was generally a pretty good kid, but she had a much harder time. Her had a very strict father, very strict theology, very conservative worldview. And, I can't say this with any degree of certainty, but I know just watching her grow up, I could tell it was hard. And she ultimately took her life in her adulthood. I mean, I don't know that there was a straight line there, but it certainly didn't help. So, absolutely. And you hear plenty of those stories, right? You hear the stories about the preacher's kids that, they rebel against their parent and they do all this crazy stuff when they're growing up, and don't date the preacher's kid, he's trouble. Like there's a lot of that going on. I wasn't like that. I was a pretty straight-laced kid growing up, and enjoyed being in church and loved being part of that. And it wasn't until I kind of got older that I realized that really wasn't my path, but I had a deep appreciation for it.
Yeah, I thought that kind of, because I know that you're tight with your family, so it kind of, I figured that maybe their style of parenting was causal in you guys being so tight and you not harboring resentment toward them.
Yeah,
I think some of your, so, okay.
No, man, my parents are awesome. They live down the street. They're very loving. I had a lot of love in my house growing up. A lot of love, a lot of hugs, it was a good place to be when I was a young person. So that influenced, and honestly, that kind of love of each other. Like that's what became my theology, right? Like put love first and you're going to be all right.
Man, who could say no to that? Boy, what a fun evening, everybody. Let's go with Cabby goodbyes. starting with Akashi Chris. On the off mute.
There I
though.
am.
You have
Thank
to
you
do it.
so
Yeah.
much. I know I was trying to find my window as usual. Nathan, this has been I miss you, man. You know, we used to hang out all the time like years ago, and then watching you guys just kind of do your thing. It's just kind of got me a little bit teared up. But it's always wonderful to talk to you. It's amazing how you deal with these questions. I don't know how you do this because like someone was like, whoa. So, but we really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. This was really fun. Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, Akashi. Boston Bia.
So Nathan, it was nice getting to know you tonight. It is amazing how you handle these questions, and you're just sitting there and great answers, and they're heartfelt. So thank you for sharing a little bit of you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Bia.
Jana.
Thank you, Nathan. It was so nice to meet you. And I've just been writing notes, like pages and pages of notes. So thank you so much. I have so much stuff to look up and read now. And then when you said campfire, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great? I just coming together and just talking about great stuff. It's just it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will.
And thank you, DJ, and thank you everybody else for your great questions. It was so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and so we are planning some things. We're planning some smaller cabbie get-togethers, like looking at October in 23rd and 24th, 25th in Boston, and also, but the one that we would love to get everybody to come to is do the Contact in the Desert and get a Sinead, fellow Canadian. Now that I have Sati and Jana on my team, like I can't miss with Sinead. She's also a friend of Nathan's, but to get a table and maybe broadcast from Contact in the Desert, so that would be great if we can do that. So we're angling towards that. This is the anniversary month of Cab, so we're gonna try to solidify a date for our 5-year anniversary. All of you have added significantly to this, including our new mods and our new friend Sati here, who's been she's been co-hosting with Akashi for a couple of years now, 3 years or so at least. And she has her own show as well. What's the name of your show, Sati?
Mute.
Mute.
You're muted.
No, mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cosmic Carousel on YouTube, and I'm on X, Sati13167. But I am so looking forward to everything coming up. I had such a great time with you tonight, Nathan. DJ, thank you for putting this together. But as you knew, DJ, Akashi, you guys knew the last time, Nathan, you were on the show with them, I was watching and I was literally the edge of my seat and I'm trying to get everything in the, the comments. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I need to ask Nathan and Darren. And I just resonate and I feel so much alignment. So it was such a blessing because I love alignment. I love depth instead of just surface things. And I love going into things that not everybody is talking about, right? I mean, there's so much going on and there's so many ways to look at it. So I just appreciate your time so much, Nathan. And DJ, you rock. This was great. And all of you beautiful ladies, Akashi and Bia and Jana and Sarah. Oh, I love you guys so much. And I can't wait for our class to start tomorrow.
Yeah, she does similar classes like what Darren does. So she's doing one of those tomorrow and having some of these ladies in her class. So
awesome. Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Sarah in Shocking Horror.
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Because the sound is glitching really bad on my end.
Yeah, sound good.
Okay. I have no idea why it's glitching. I echo everything that has already been said. Thank you, Bia and DJ, for putting this together and allowing me to come on. Nathan, I'll thank you for the 1,000th time for giving me an hour of your time a couple weeks ago. You know, I fangirl over you. It's no secret, but not in like a stage 5 way, I promise. But you know, really appreciated you taking the time to have the conversation with me, and look forward to hopefully being able to do this again and continue to build that connection with you. You know, one of the things for me that I really wanted to be able to understand more was your background as a preacher's child, because I am also, as you now know, a preacher's daughter. And so maybe one day, you know, I'll be fortunate enough to have a similar conversation with Darren, but just thank you very, very much. You are a force. You command a room. You speak very, very well, and just, you know, really appreciate you taking the time and giving us your time.
Thank you, Sarah. A real pleasure.
Oh, we just got a new member. This is Jonna's buddy, Farm Demon. Hey, thank you
We
very
love
much.
your farm demon. It's on X all the time. So cool.
Love her.
Thank you for becoming a cab member. And by the way, when we talk about doing Contact in the Desert or any cab meetup, that doesn't mean just hosts. That means mods. It means everybody. Everybody would come on. And if we do get on air, everyone would have the opportunity to get up on air with us, whether that's a Contact to the Desert or what have you. So we like participation from everybody, and everybody's welcome. It's not just a host thing. Please leave your DNA on the like button. If it's not on 23andMe, they can come get you off the like button. And and thank you, Nathan. It's an honor to do another one of these episodes with you of Ask Nathan, and I enjoy it so much. And I think what was resonating with her was with you, James, and Darren, which we love doing those episodes. And I want to book another one. Yeah. And I would love to do another one of these part Trey.
Love it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Wonderful. Thank you all so much. This has been a real pleasure. It's just, I'm humbled. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Love you guys. And we'll talk to you this week as we plan more cab episodes. Awesome. All right.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.